Hope everyone is having a fantastic week. I got something very, very special for you today. We brought in Dr. C, Dr. Cole Boland, to share his journey from being stuck around $5,000 to $6,000 a month in his chiropractic clinic for a little over a year to surging his client acquisition to now hitting his first ever $25,000 month in February, where he was doing what most new practice owners are doing for a year, trying to gain momentum, but kind of being stuck in a feast or famine sort of cycle until we started collaborating to nail down his conversion system, his lead acquisition system. And within 60 days, he now has a fully booked schedule. And so we're bringing him out here to share some of the biggest mistakes he feels that he made in the beginning and what small changes he made that finally allowed all of the momentum, all of the hard work, all the effort that he put in that first year to finally catch up with him, where he's gaining this month over month growth, to share that journey, the good and the bad, with each of you here today. He had a full day. There's a million things he could be doing here today. So make sure we give him some love in the comments for taking the time to share his wisdom with each of us today. Cole, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So, just for a little bit of context for everybody, can you just tell us a little bit about your story, your practice, how you got started, all that good stuff?
Cool. Yeah. So my practice is 417 Performance. We are located in Springfield, Missouri. So started February 2023, I think, was whenever I officially opened. The build out process was probably the thing that really set me back more than anything from my whole journey. The build out process was a nightmare. So that's a big part of the reason why my first year I feel stalled so much. After dealing with the build out and dealing with the construction side of things, I just didn't trust anybody. So even though going into starting the business, I knew that something like this was what I needed to do. I just after being burned by my contractor, I just didn't trust anybody to do anything from the start. So, but hey, we're rolling now. So we got here. It just took longer than I would have anticipated or would have preferred.
I've never ever heard of a construction project being on time. Never in my life.
Oh man, it was amazing. He's like, yeah, it'll take 4 to 6 weeks, and I was like, well, that's great. I got 6 months of free rent, so that'll work perfectly. And he heard 6 months of free rent, and he's like, oh well, it'll take 6 months then. So he took
Oh,
every single one of those 6 months. So
that's brutal. So during that time, did you work out of another location, or what was the situation like at the
dude,
start?
so I burnt the ships. I was working at a office in Kansas City. I was running an office. Um, it was like I was the clinic director, and I would never talk bad. I love that clinic. I love the guys there. But just looking at the writing on the wall, there wasn't a ton of room for growth in the way that I thought there was whenever I started.
Right.
So I kind of knew that I was going to have to eventually leave and do my own thing. But um, me and my wife, we just got married back in October, and we were getting to that age where we're starting to think about kids and stuff. So we wanted to be closer to family anyway. So we finally just pulled the trigger, moved 3.5 hours away. She's got her own thing going on, and then I opened my practice. Tried to open my practice from square one right there, kind of back close to my hometown. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. Well, congratulations on getting married. That's super exciting. I know that
Yeah.
it lights a good fire under you, I imagine, once
Yeah.
lock that in.
Yeah.
So you knew from the get-go that, well, maybe not from the get-go, but the writing was on the wall that you had to go out and start your own thing. Was there a defining moment where you're like, now's the time for me to go and do this? Was there ever a side hustle stage where eventually you're like, great, I'm doing this, or you're just cold turkey?
So I'll tell you what it really was being a director there, going in, I expected to have a lot more say in kind of the operations and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I had these great ideas for marketing. I had these great ideas for operations, how things ran. And then I just had a lot of opinions on dress code and stuff like that. And it was kind of just falling on deaf ears because for them, they had gotten there one certain way. And because they got there that way, they didn't want to change anything. And I was just that's getting somewhere one way is great. But if you could grow from that, you don't have to do grassroots doing, in the gym every single
Right.
weekend for the rest of your life to keep patients. Like eventually you can use that momentum to grow into other things, but they weren't interested. Like they had their thing that was working and that's what they wanted to stick to. So that was kind of the start of the end, I think, for me.
Yeah.
But even in school, like I always knew that I wanted to go the cash route eventually. Like, so I told you in advance that I'm long-winded on all this stuff. So if I really get into like the story on it, before I went to Cairo school, I was working in a physical therapy clinic, a rehab clinic, and there was one guy that really stuck with me because he was like a 35-year-old cyclist who had some sort of weird genetic blood condition that caused him to have like a stroke. And he was flaccid on one side, and we were doing rehab on him. Nothing was working except for this like one machine that was like a bike where we would hook e-stim pads up to him. And like the bike was programmed to make him fire muscles when he was supposed to pedal. And I guess just him being a cyclist or something, that was the only thing that really registered with him. But it was deemed experimental by the insurance. So the corporation that owned the physical therapy clinic said we couldn't do it anymore. And like from that moment on, I always kind of knew that I was going to go the cash route because it was like I couldn't imagine telling a patient like, "Hey, this is the only thing that helps you, but your insurance doesn't pay for it, so we can't do it." So that I've always kind of known that the cash route was the way that I was going to go, but it was just how I got there is really the longer part of all of it.
Yeah. And honestly, feel free to go as deep into these things as you're comfortable with, because it's those little details that usually most people like kind of just pass over that are usually the most impactful for a lot of people feeling the same thing. And I can tell you from doing a lot of these and doing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of calls over these years, I think everyone in these communities has had a similar experience where insurance companies just rip the rug out from a patient that is totally unnecessary. And that's why the cash model is exploding right now. And we're even at the point where we're having prospective patients contacting our clinics asking if we take insurance, not because they want to use it, but because they actually don't want to use it.
Trying to avoid it. Yeah.
Right. It's amazing that that's starting to happen. So when you first started your practice, were you all in on the cash model from the get-go?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Nice. What did that model look like? Obviously, a lot of our followers and the people in our communities are physical therapists, but so tell us a little bit about the differences.
So the office I ran in Kansas City, it was half chiro, half PT, but everybody treats the exact same, which is a big philosophy of mine. I feel like if you're doing good work, the initials after your name don't matter. Like if you're giving the best physical medicine, a patient should be able to walk in the door and not know whether they just saw a chiropractor, a physical therapist, a athletic trainer. Like they should just get the best thing that they need for their condition. So whenever we were there, we were doing 30-minute treatments, and I just took that model and I took it from like an insurance and I just tried to run it cash based. So our cash rate there was super low. It was like $65 for a 30-minute. And I came out and I kind of had a bias that like I'm in a more rural area. I mean, it's technically like a bigger city in Missouri, but it's still a pretty rural area. So just my bias coming in, I was like, people can't afford to pay like high ticket stuff. So I'm going to do $75. I was so scared to tell people $75 for 30 minutes. Like I was thinking that they were going to shove that in my face because it was $10 more than what I was getting in Kansas City for cash. But, nobody really batted an eye at $75, and it was going fine, but it just like, it's hard to gain traction on like low ticket sales like that. So yeah, I started 30-minute visits. I do a 1-hour eval and then I do 30-minute visits. Once I started the program though, like talking to people in the program and everything just completely changed the way that I even practice in general.
So what was the clinic setup? So you're doing hour-long evaluations, 30-minute sessions prior to joining our program, and that's when you're kind of floating around the $5,000 to $6,000 a month?
Right. Yeah.
What were you doing to acquire patients?
It was all online. It was all SEO and referral based.
Nice.
I was trying to do, so like I said, in Kansas City, the whole marketing plan was like, we're just going to hit every freaking gym every single weekend. You don't need weekends. I tried to do that here, but what's really weird here, like I'm from the area, so I expected to like have some connections, some network, and just like it would be easy. I think I hit every gym in the area and DM'd them. I emailed them. I stopped in, and they basically all just told me like no. They either told me no or they like just didn't respond. So like I couldn't even get into the gyms here to like start that like online marketing. So then I was like, well, I got to figure out how to uh, do it online, because if I can't do it in person, I'm just gonna figure it out online. And I wanted to go that route anyway. I had a patient who was a dentist, and he was telling me about how like his website brings in all of his patients. And I was like, I've never seen a dentist in a gym before marketing. So like if they can run, like he had a penthouse in downtown Kansas City, like if he can run a successful practice like that, then I can figure out how to make a practice in Springfield, Missouri work without having to like spend all of my free time shilling myself for free care in a gym.
That's right. It's crazy. Like the most common, and I think everyone here can relate with everything that you just said, where you try to do the boots on the ground stuff, but it's so hard to gain a foothold. It's so hard to gain any kind of momentum. And ironically, it's momentum that makes that strategy the most successful, because when you're networking, they can feel that like momentum and they want to hop on and have a piece of that momentum too. But when they can tell where you're not quite going at full speed, it's hard to get anyone to pay attention, right?
Yeah. What's funny is one of the first gyms that like, well, not the first gym, but like I kind of just gave up on boots on the ground for a long time. And then in February, whenever things were really rolling, I had some gym was having like a 10-year anniversary, and they were just looking for any vendors that would show up. And that popped up on like a private group that I'm in on Facebook. So I messaged them and I did one of their events. And like I got more traction from that one event after I like didn't even need it anymore than I ever got from all of the events that I was going to, where I was like giving my 100%, like trying as hard as I could. That event, I showed up, and like the day that I agreed to it, and then the day I went there, I was like, man, do I really need to be doing this? And so like I just went in there and I just talked to people. I think I maybe actually like gave treatment to 2 people, where normally I'm like ART-ing, like scraping, I'm doing anything I can to people to try to get them to like see value in my care. And that day I just like talked to people, maybe worked on 1 or 2 people. And I got probably 3 patients out of that one event. Whereas like I maybe had 3 from all of the other events that I'd done through the last year. So
yeah, it can be a brutal world out there with the organic side of things, but it is a heck of a lot more fun to do it when you don't need it to work. You're almost just doing it to get awareness out there and to meet some new people where you don't need it to work out. And then
ironically, a lot more choosy.
Better that way.
Yeah.
Right. So you went through that journey. You did the boots on the ground stuff. You got the online side on the SEO side of work, which most people actually really, really struggle with. So I'd love to spend a moment talking about that in a minute. But what was the biggest shift that happened that finally allowed you to get unstuck and break past that, $5,000-$6,000 a month mark once you started working with us?
Man, just all the traffic that I got off the ads, like rural area, like people around here freaking love Facebook. So like once I started running the ads, I mean, the ads brought in the leads, but honestly, I think the whole program really helped out a ton. Cause like I said, I completely changed the way, like I completely changed my whole model once I started Booked, right? Like going through the modules, talking to people in the group, I went from doing 30-minute sessions to doing 60-minute sessions, which I I was scared to do them because I was like, what the heck am I going to talk to people for 60 minutes about? But now that I do them, I find myself running over on a 60-minute session. I'm like, I don't know how I ever did a 30-minute session prior to this. So that helped out a ton. I think just building connection with patients. But I raised my prices. I switched to 60-minute sessions and just focused a lot more on quality of care whenever they were here versus like giving them as much as I can and 15-minute bundles and then kicking them out the door. So yeah, I think that training in the booked part of it, like, cause the booked program, I mean, it had things to like help with the pricing side of things. It had things to help with the package side of things. I'd never sold a package before, so I didn't even know how to structure a package. So all the training, getting everything set up for the admin and the front end side of things, I think really helped out a ton.
Mhm.
But then whenever I started running the ads and getting in, like just getting people, butts and seats, people through the door, like that's what really took like skyrocketed me.
Yeah, and so I know you were. I want to dig into a little bit about like what your package structure looks like. How like what kind of changes have you seen happen since implementing that you didn't maybe see coming?
Yeah,
But when you joined, you're pretty skeptical. Like, what were you
sure.
most skeptical about? And yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a natural skeptic, I like to think.
Mhm.
But honestly, it really came down to, like I said, from the contractor, like being burned by the contractor. I gave him so much money, and I didn't feel like I got anything out of it. So whenever, well, I got the stuff out of it. I just didn't get it in the time frame I wanted. So anytime I would talk to other people and they'd start like, more than just a couple $1,000s, I'm like, man, that's more than what I make in a month. I can't give you like that much money. So I was really skeptical that anything was going to work. Honestly, I was like, I'm just going to do it for free and try to make as much money. And then once I have money, then I'll do it, which I think is funny. Somebody told me that's kind of like, saying that you'll work out whenever you have a six pack, or saying that like you'll go to the doctor whenever you're not sick anymore.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I don't know, I was just skeptical that things were going to work out, but it so happened I had a friend that was like in the program, and I ran across some of his ads. Um, and so I just reached out to him and I was like, "Hey man, tell me what's going on with this. Like, is this actually working for you? Are you doing anything?" And then of course, once he talked me into like booking the discovery call with you guys, and talking to you guys, like I ran into Luke, was who I did my call with, and Luke is brothers with Josh, who was a guy that worked at the same company that I worked at in Kansas City.
No
So
kidding.
then I just found out that like all these people I know are in this program, and I didn't
Mm.
even realize it. So
Yeah,
that's
and you just met PTN
yeah,
Jen's team too,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's wild, small world.
yeah. Yeah, so like just to like everybody, like I just kept meeting people and like talking to people and realizing people were in the program. And I was like, well, no wonder like they're like I saw Josh start a practice after me and hire people before me. And I was like, man, what is he doing? Like, because we came from the same model. I just assumed he was doing the same thing I was doing. So
Mhm.
um that got my curiosity piqued. And then from there it was like I was bought in, and then I have an obsessive personality, so once I'm bought in on something, like I just go all in on it. So I think the modules were set up where like, oh, you're
Mm.
supposed to do like this stuff this week, this stuff that week. I think I was through all the modules in 2 weeks, and
So,
like going after that. So
yeah, no wonder. No wonder. In what 60 days after launching the ads, what'd you do the first month of running ads? Out of curiosity.
so yeah, so it's funny. Yeah, so December was my worst month ever.
Mm.
Uh, which December is always a down month. But like I came in just under 5K in December, and that's where I really started getting worried about things. So that's also why I was starting to get like kind of admitted to myself that I needed help. I couldn't just, figure it out as I go. But um just implementing things and changing my model up in January, I doubled my December revenue. Um
Nice.
and then uh February I hit 5x that revenue, and then
Oh.
this month I'm still at like 3x that December revenue. So that was the thing that one of the things that I was really skeptical about was I'd heard like all these people talk about like, oh, your ad agency, they're gonna like help you out, you're gonna get great results your first month, and then you're never gonna get anything again.
Yep.
And so like obviously I was just skeptical, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make money in March from selling these packages, but then or in February from selling these packages, but then in March I'm gonna make like $2,000 because everybody's like prepaid. But hasn't been the case, so it's working out.
That's why we stopped being an agency. I mean, Max and I
Yeah,
ran an agency for years, and it honestly like it broke our souls. Just weren't built for that kind of work
yeah,
because the average amount of the length of time that's actually taught in all standard agency like programs that teach you how to launch one, the average amount of time you hang on to a client is 3 months because it's structured in a way so that the clients make a lot of money the first month enough to give them hope to hang on for 2 more months. And then
Hmm.
at that point, it becomes more cost effective to replace that customer than to put the work into their ads to keep them working, which is so
Yeah.
messed up. And
Yeah.
you've met Max, you've met our team. Like, we get close with the people that we work with because that's
Yeah.
just like who we are. And that's why 5 years ago we started teaching people how to do this stuff themselves, because it is easy. You don't need an agency to do this stuff. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Were you
Super easy.
surprised?
Um, So I'd ran a Facebook ad before,
Mm,
so I knew like kind of the setup wasn't too hard, but like the
yeah,
CRM side of things was super intimidating going in. And
yeah.
like I've dug in, and like I said, I got an obsessive personality. So I've probably spent more time on YouTube learning about like GHL and like how to build new pipelines and stuff
Oh,
than anything. Like this is just what I do whenever I'm at home in my free time now. So like just I was super intimidated by the CRM, and just like
yeah.
it made it so easy to use. And then I'm sure Max has told you like we'll schedule like a check-in call that's supposed to be like 15 minutes, and then it'll be like 45 minutes of like 15 minutes checking in, seeing how it's going, 15 minutes of me telling him like all this crap that I'm watching and like hearing in podcasts and stuff, and then 15 minutes of us just talking about fantasy football. So like, like I
That
couldn't
sounds about right.
yeah, I could see where it would be hard to run an agency where you miss out on all your free fantasy football advice.
Are you his ringer? You're helping him out?
Yeah, we were talking about so part of the reason why we got so in the weeds with a lot of our conversations
Yeah.
was I started building out a custom GPT and Chat GPT for to
Yes.
read fantasy football articles for me, and then make like 1,000 word or less summary of what all the articles were. So I would just like put all the articles into the knowledge base and have it give me like 1,000 word summary of like who was going to do good that week and who was going to do bad. Um,
That,
so that's kind of where me and Max really started clicking, was whenever we were talking about Chat GPT and fantasy
mhm.
football. So
That is freaking brilliant. Brilliant. Wow, we could actually do a whole other thing about like cool random things that we have
yeah,
ChatGPT doing for us.
oh yeah,
If anyone here is on here and you're also an AI fan, or would like to learn some other really cool ways you can leverage AI in your day-to-day life, not just within business, but put AI in the comments, and maybe we'll get Cole back out here someday, and we'll be able to riff on that for a while. Heck yeah,
absolutely.
getting some love in the comments here. Just to kind of put a bow on this stuff. So once you started working with us, the biggest thing, obviously, the ads stepped in, helped give you the reps that you needed to get the
Yeah,
volume within the clinic. But it sounds like the biggest change that made the biggest difference is adjusting the model, 60-minute visits, and selling packages. Tell us
yeah.
a little bit about like what is there any changes to like any surprises that happened as a result of that you didn't expect outside of the big boost and just cash flow?
Um, yeah, I mean, the like I said, the 60-minute treatments, I really like I was really scared the first time, because I was like, I don't know what the heck I'm going to talk to people about for 60 minutes. But
Right.
like once I started doing them, the 60-minute treatments, they were like it's so much less, like as far as like burnout goes.
Yeah.
I think the volume of treating patients is more of a burnout than like the
Mm,
actual like time, right?
yeah.
So like whenever I was doing the 30-minute model, so
Yeah.
if I saw 50 patients, which is 25 patient hours, I was just absolutely cooked for the week. Whereas like now I have 25 patients in a week, and I'm just chilling. Like
Easy.
it's great. Yeah.
Right.
Um,
I
so
can imagine. So you got to do that almost like first impression smile, high energy for that full 15 minutes
yeah.
for every single person versus like a high energy, like welcome, but then it's a little bit, it
Yeah.
mellows out throughout that hour.
Well, and I'm not a small talk guy. I'm a deep conversation guy, which is why I talk too much. But
Mm,
like whenever you're just like small talk, all right, here's what you need to do now. Get out the door so I can small talk. Here's what you need to do now. Get out the door to the next one.
right.
And then whenever you get like, you know, in 25 patient hours, you're probably seeing 30 or 40 patients in that week, because it's not like you're seeing all of them multiple times a week. So like I was forgetting what side I was working on with people, or like I was working on like an old injury where like, we hadn't worked on that shoulder for like 6 weeks, but like I just forgot and just remembered them as like the shoulder person. And it
Yep.
was just like, man, I can't, like, people are getting bad care here, and it's not because I like don't want to give them better care. It's just like to keep the salary range that I need to keep at that job. I was having to see so many people that I couldn't keep up with what I was doing, So
And
yeah, that the hour has been great. It also works better with the model too, because if you think about like cost of acquisition, like to fill 25 hours, I would have to get double the number of leads and double the number of converts. So
yep.
just my math brain, that made sense to me too, to help kind of push me over the edge. But yeah, I mean, people are getting great results. People are liking it. I honestly never thought that anybody would buy a package. Like I was just like, people in this area, like I'm going to tell them how much my package is. They're going to laugh and leave. And
Mhm.
I still have a lot of room for improvement. But like, I'm able to close 30 to 40% of people on packages. And it's just like
Mm.
every time as they walk out, I'm just like, I can't believe they just said yes. Like I, I
Yeah.
didn't think, I didn't think people in my area would do it. So yeah,
Yep.
it's one of those things. I think, listening to another podcast, I think a big holdback for a lot of people is thinking like their area is too poor, or like
Yeah.
they can't do that sort of practice. And I was a little bit there, but I'd done enough of like listening to podcasts and stuff to just like convince myself to give it a shot anyway.
Yep.
But yeah, no, it works. You just got to find the right people.
And that's what everyone says that, and it makes so much sense to believe that at face value. But after doing this for 5 years, if we mapped out the average lifetime value of each clinic that we've worked with, the ones that are in the blue collar towns, the ones that are a little bit more rural, blow the big city ones out of the water.
Yeah,
But if you think about it, that makes sense because those are probably the ones that have the fewest options and are therefore the most fed up with
yeah.
the traditional model that's around them.
Dude, you want to
So,
talk about something that I was surprised by whenever I started this clinic, was like whenever I lived here, I thought we have like two major hospital groups here, and like
mhm,
a lot of different like clinics in the area and stuff. And so I thought like, hey, this is healthcare area. Like we must have great healthcare here. Some of the stories now with the patients that I'm getting in, and some of the stuff that they're telling me that they're getting from these hospitals, I'm like, dude, I don't know how you keep going back for this stuff, because it's just like I'm just shocked that they're like missing diagnoses and stuff.
yep,
I won't get into my long rant about that, but like I think in a rural town, I think you hit the nail on the head. If you're giving good care, like you're going to explode, just because like they're so used to getting like subpar care. And if you think about like surgeons and stuff, they always want to go to like the huge hospitals in the big cities. So the hospitals in the rural town, they get a lot of the like the ones that the big hospitals wouldn't take. So if you go out there and give good care, man, people eat it up. They love it.
right. And we could probably sit down and have a beer and talk about this forever because
Yeah,
there's an interesting trend where like trust in other people is at an all-time low in the last 50 years, which
yeah,
makes sense. So if people actually feel seen, listened to, and understood, that makes sense that people are more willing to pay because they just don't feel that anywhere anymore.
yeah,
Everyone just wants something from them, and if you just slow down and actually care about them, it's like people
yeah.
are willing to invest for sure.
Well, and I think with everything that came from 2020 and COVID, like the
Hmm.
best thing that's happened to us is people are a lot more health conscious now. They're
Yep.
tired of pills. They're tired of shots. So if you can offer them a solution that doesn't involve pharmaceuticals, they're usually pretty interested at that point. So
Right. Yeah, there's another study Ben and I talked about on a recent podcast where, despite inflation and the recession that we're in impacting people's availability of resources to splurge on things, what we're spending on health, wellness, and nutrition has significantly gone up every single year, despite our spending power going down.
yeah,
And that trend hasn't slowed down at all; it keeps increasing.
yeah,
So fascinating stuff. But so we don't go too over time
yeah,
here.
yeah.
Let's any words of advice for people who were where you were, who are trying to get their practice off the ground, outside of just signing up with us, like what's
Sure.
something
Yeah.
that someone could go
You don't
and
want me just to shill you? Just like,
right. Oh, it's
yeah.
coming. It's
Yeah.
coming. But
Yeah.
what's some practical advice someone could implement tomorrow or start thinking about differently that might help them get out of a tough situation?
Yeah. Man, honestly, business is tough and it's not natural to anybody. So like
Hmm.
just understanding that like just because you get like help or get a coach doesn't mean that you're like a failure. I think that was a big part for me was I was like, oh, my dad was a small business owner. I'm smart. I can do this on my own. And just like acknowledging the fact that like even, like LeBron James has a shooting coach. So like you don't have to be bad at something to have somebody that's helps you out. And it's like especially in like in our world in PT Cairo, even like any sort of like physical medicine world, we have to know so much about the human body. Like we have to study that stuff so much that we don't have time to study that and study the psychology behind sales and like read all these sales psychology books and then also learn all the tech and then have a family and have people that actually like us and friends and like you either got to find yourself a dark hole and just dig in or you just got to find some help and like kind of offload that onto some other people. And so um, yeah, I think the best advice is just don't be afraid to ask for help because it doesn't necessarily mean that you're failing. A lot of times, the most successful people have the most help. So
Sage advice that goes so much deeper than business. Every component of life. If people are just more open to asking for help, everyone would be doing a hell of a lot better.
yeah,
That's for sure.
yeah, and I also think it's kind of funny now that I'm on the other side of that fence.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of funny looking back at where I was before, where I didn't want to ask for help and I could do it all myself because I'll get a patient who like doesn't want to commit to care because they found a YouTube video, and I'm just like, dude, why would you spend 6 months on a YouTube video whenever you could fix it in 6 weeks with a professional? And then I look back to me thinking about like all the times I was like watching 45 YouTube videos on how to set up Facebook ads or watching how to like do SEO on a website. And I'm like, dude, if I'm expecting people to come to a professional for help for this stuff, why am I not going to a professional for help with like their scope of stuff?
Yes. Yes. More sage advice. Be the person you want to attract.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a no brainer once you like fall on your face and learn
Yeah.
that the hard way. But
Yeah.
you're right. Everyone is on their own journey. And until someone falls on their face and life slaps them around a little bit, you can hear this advice all day, but it doesn't sink in until you have that personal context to apply to it. And
Yeah.
that's why you got to just do the best you can, give everyone the information they can, but be emotionally removed from the outcome because we don't know what leg of life they're on yet.
Yeah. Well, and getting into like the marketing side of things in general. Like if you really want some mental health advice coming from me is like, don't get so like obsessed in the numbers because this business is it's a cyclical business. There's high times and there's low times. So like, I mean, if we look into like my numbers, I'm not doing as good at this month as I did in February, but it doesn't mean that it's not working. It's just like you're going to have high like peaks and valleys. So I mean, everybody's goal is to smooth those out as much as possible. But I've had friends who like, I mean, they've taken years off their life because like they were $5,000 in gross sales lower this month than they were last month. But meanwhile, their clinic's making over a million a year. And I'm like, dude, why are you this stressed over 5K? Like, calm down. It's going to be okay. In 2 months, you're going to make 15K more than you made in your best month, and you're going to like have the best year ever. So it's like, just enjoy the ride. Don't get too stressed out about it.
And that's such a painful lesson. Everyone's got to learn that one the hard way. The worst month of my life came after I had our first 6-figure month was like the feeling I was chasing for
Yeah.
years. And then I finally had it. Then the next month we were substantially lower than that. And I
Yeah.
felt like I graduated to the next grade and then
They got
wasn't
kicked
good
back
enough
down.
and it kicked me right back down.
Yeah.
And yeah, you have to go through those cycles enough times to realize how to handle them with grace. And then once you're able to do that, you're able to keep your high energy, which is required to maintain the rate that you want to stay at. So you have to learn how to like balance your energy and detach from all of those numbers. And yeah,
Yeah.
it just takes reps.
Yeah. Or fantasy football. That's where I learned it. Run a couple fantasy football leagues and then suck a couple years and realize that it's cyclical. You'll be back in there.
I love that, man. I love that. But I'm after talking to you, it's no wonder why the team loves working with you so much, Cole. I got to say, we got to have you back on here sometime, or at least have you on the podcast, because there's a lot of things we talked about today that I think we could really go deep on, and that you
Yeah.
clearly have a lot of wisdom and advice from other areas of life that you could apply to a lot of the areas I know people struggle with. So we'd love to have you on sometime. But
Absolutely.
any last minute advice for anyone who has been watching our program just as skeptical as you were going into it, who still is like, I don't know if it's worth talking to these guys? What kind of advice you got for them?
To just pull the trigger. I mean, at the end of the day, it's gonna get better in 6 months, or it's gonna get better now. And you gotta pull the trigger and decide how much it's worth it to you. It's just like telling patients, like you can get better now, or you can get better a year from now. And it's just how much is your time worth? So,
That's right.
and then, last piece of advice is get in the booked course, pay for the course, join the mastermind. Looks like they've got T-shirts. Buy the T-shirts. You guys got anything else I can
No,
share
these are
real quick?
exclusive. These are.
Oh, okay. Sorry, T-shirts can't be bought. Maybe you can get them as part of your booked membership whenever you sign up. They'll throw it in if
Come to
you
the
sign
live
up in the
events.
next 48 hours.
Are you coming to the live event?
That's the plan right now.
Okay. Oh man, it would be really cool to get to hang out, have some beers, and relax and learn a ton of stuff and move the business forward. But
Yeah.
either way, we'll catch you eventually. We're happy to have you in Mastermind, and stoked to get to work with you for the next 12 months. But
Yeah.
Cole, thank you so much for being here, sharing your journey and your wisdom with us. As I said in the beginning, there's so many things that you could be doing, but you decided to be here to share your story, and that means a lot. So everyone who's watching this, make sure to drop Cole some love in the comments. Yeah, everyone, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Cole, any last words?
I think I'm good.
Cool. Right on.